Well, the reason that they had to let Snow White go was because they kept hearing her out of Pinocchio's dressing room shouting, "Lie to me, lie to me." 5, 4, 3. Hey, Trekkers! Hey. Welcome again to another episode of Trek Tonight. We are going to be talking tonight about the episode, it's episode 5, I believe, of season 3 of Picard,
yes.
Entitled Imposters. If you have not seen the episode, we're going to be talking spoilers. So you might want to shut us off, go watch the episode, and then come back and enjoy all the wonderful repartee about the episode. But tonight we are thrilled because we have Angela Alverson with us tonight in the studio. And Angela has
big fan of the show.
Yeah, a long time viewer and friend. And how are you, Angela?
Great. I'm excited and sad that we're halfway through this season.
Right.
I want to find a way to milk the last 5 just because I know that I'm going to immediately go into, withdrawals when it's done.
Yeah. You always get that. You get towards the, after 5, you get into, the last half, and then you start to go, oh, there's only 3 more left. But all right. So yeah. How you doing?
Each episode has been so good. And maybe even just a little bit better than the last one.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm just loving this.
Yeah, I am too. How you doing, Leo?
I'm doing okay. I agree, because it's funny when it first starts out. You're like, oh wow, there's all this stuff we're waiting to unfold before us, and then it's like halfway through, you're like, wait a minute, how did that happen? It's like summer vacation, it just sort of like evaporates.
Right. It does. It's like all of a sudden you turn around and you start seeing those terrible back to school ads on.
Yeah.
John Van Gosteen is here again, giving us a thumbs up. John.
Thank you, John.
You watching the show. Keith jumps in. Angela, hi. Camera Geek is, of course, our friend incognito, Keith Jacobson. Craig Lubin says, hi, Angela. Hello, folks.
Hey, Craig.
And Keith comes back with, I agree. Each episode has been fantastic and better than the previous. So do we want to just jump into this? Because there is a lot going on. And I will say that for me, when I started watching this, again, I was saying before to Angela that a lot of times I wake up at 3 a.m. for one reason or another. And then I think, oh yeah, the new episode's on. I should turn it on. And then I watch about a third of it and some of it through my eyelids. And then I have to watch it the next day. But
yeah, I finished watching it at 1:30 in.
Okay. Yeah.
The first time.
Right.
But I've watched it like 4 more times since then.
Right. Yeah. Well, being on the West Coast probably helps with that a lot, because it's a lot easier to stay up till midnight.
Just as a tip, it drops about 2:30, a little after 2:30 here on the East Coast.
Does it really?
Yeah, it's should be 3, but it's like 2. Usually about, it's like 2:36. Like is about when I check in to see if they've put a like the new episode up.
Right.
I don't know what's up with that, but I can see it in. I'm sort of keeping vampires hours. I'm just sort of up way too late.
Right.
So I will watch, I'll watch like half an episode of the Great British Baking Show and then, watch Picard.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, well, when I watched a little bit this morning, and then Riker hands over the ship, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, oh well, they're going to get arrested, and Starfleet intelligence is here, and I kind of got a little bad flashback to season 2, and I thought, oh no, they're going to start introducing all this other stuff, and it's going to be not as good. But then by the time I saw the whole thing and it wrapped up, it was fantastic.
Oh, agreed.
So, yeah. So at any rate, where do you want to begin?
Let's talk about how brief Captain Shaw felt chipper.
Yes.
It was a flash in the pan.
Yeah, he was
exactly
having a little Schadenfreude in the turbo lift.
Yeah, exactly.
It was. I mean, I can't blame him because basically, there
he is.
Todd Stashwick, star of stage and screen. He's just like bouncing on the balls of his feet with a prospect. He's I'm not happy because you guys are gonna get your asses handed to them.
Right.
That's pretty much the reason he's like,
I'm in a really good mood.
I'm just feeling chipper. And he says, and it was the time that you dropped the saucer section onto a planet, the time you violated the prime directive to snog a villager, and the other time where he created it's time-space anomaly in this sector,
Right.
So
this is a chicken egg scenario.
Yes, the chicken egg scenario. That was and I think he feels like, well, these guys are going to get carted away. It's no longer my problem.
Right.
Go back to my very regulated life. Like he likes everything in its place. He's a very, that's the kind of captain he is. But of course, fate is not done with Captain Shaw in the Titan A.
Keith says, for a character I hated at first, I want to see a Star Trek Shaw show. And Craig says, even happy Shaw is the lovable asshole in a good way.
Yes. Well, even when he reinstates Seven, he said, "When you want to face the music, stated, reinstated or unstated?" He's reinstated, and he's like, "Boom, boom."
Yeah.
So I'll leave you guys as a courtesy to get your bullshit stories together.
I loved that line. Yeah.
So
yeah,
he's so happy with the thought of getting rid of our heroes. And again, you can't blame him because it's like his life was going pretty well,
right,
up to the point then Picard and Riker showed up,
right.
So, but clearly, the changeling problem, it would have come sooner or later to the Titan.
Yes, it would have. Yeah, and it's really interesting because when they start to realize, I forget at what moment in this episode, but there is a comment from somebody that this all occurred before Beverly and Jack showed up. So that guy had to be on there. So yeah. What do you guys think about this evolved changeling thing?
It's a game changer, man.
It is.
Yeah.
Beverly Crusher's going to have to find a way around this new evolution. I mean, they're going to have to, they're going to have to sort this out. Because if not, then, we can't not trust everyone all the time.
Right.
Yeah, right. They do have to find some way of doing that. It is unclear if Jack Crusher himself is the changeling detector. Because he has a number of sort of episodes, and the show actually opens up with him having this nightmare of killing everybody on the bridge, and there's all these vines or veins. It's a little unclear. They kind of sound like vines because there's that kind of like
creaking
TV sound of like branches, And he wakes up with a phaser in his hand, which is probably pretty unnerving.
Yeah.
It's not just a euphemism.
No.
Very nice.
Well played, Angela. But he has a vision they put him in a Starfleet uniform to hide him from security, which he doesn't want to do because it's the same uniform he had in his vision, in his dream.
Yeah.
And
It
it
was
goes
like,
down to
nothing good can come of this. Really, you don't want me to put this outfit on?
you really no, you don't. But when he's in the transporter room, and he has another one of his sort of episodes, and he's looking at the transporter beams, he also sees like all these veins, the vines going through. So does that indicate that they are changelings, or that they're not
there
changelings?
was that, but they also had that strange fleshy quality to them too, like the changelings seem to have now, where changelings back in DS9 had a almost like an amber quality to them.
Yeah,
like
they would goop. They were
liquidy.
just solid in between. They didn't have any organs.
Right. Yeah. And now they're these sort of gooey, fleshy.
Well, again, you really have to cut them up before they start to sort of dissolve.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this was also the first episode where Sidney LaForge did not mention her father. Love Sidney. She's a bit of a name dropper. But she does have a moment where like, can you confirm that this is not you? Says Dr. Crusher, and then she goes off screen to yak. Which I thought was a nice little touch, because it's like, we expect our heroes to be these stalwart, nothing affects them.
Right.
But she's a young officer, and it's kind of like, it has to be very unnerving to see what looks like exactly you, except for the phaser hole in your chest.
Right.
Just lying there on the slab, and that's got to be a little.
In her defense, one of the times that she was a name dropper, it was the changeling.
That's true. So. That is true. Fair enough. Well, that's one thing they picked up from her, if not Commander Seven's actual name. But yeah, I think there's still a lot of questions as to why everybody is so interested in Jack Crusher, including Starfleet. Now, whether this is actual Starfleet or, deep mole changelings is another question.
Right. Hey, Scott Taylor is here. Gave us a thumbs up. Hi, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Good to see you. I think it's going to be interesting once they get to dive into Commander Rowe's notes.
Yes.
That's clearly
now. Yeah, that was the big surprise this episode. The person sent to investigate them from the fourth ship to bear the name Intrepid that we've seen in Star Trek is none other than Ro Laren, who last we saw had gone off and joined the Maquis, as we find out, breaking Captain Picard's heart.
Yes.
And there's a lot of family drama in this season of Picard. Because Picard, now he has a son, a biological son, but he's had a lot of surrogate children.
Right.
Like, Ro Laren was very much like a daughter to him.
Right.
As Keith says.
My money is on the deep mole Starfleet that is interested in Jack.
I'd say that's a safe bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think regular Starfleet doesn't give a flip about Jack.
No.
Right.
Yeah. It was great to see Michelle Forbes again.
Yes.
We hadn't seen her since that I want to say 7th or 8th season episode where she disappears under deep cover with a Maquis.
Right.
And she's being a real hard ass with Picard, partially because she's not sure if he's actually Picard. That's a pretty, given everything that's going on, a pretty legit question.
Yeah. Well, and considering what she's been researching all that time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's not until they breathe each other's heartache that they know that they're definitely not changelings, right?
They finally have to sort of come clean about their anger and resentment for each other, which was a great moment, because it was, again, I was glad. I always loved her character, and I was sorry she was offered a leading role in Deep Space Nine, which then she turned it down, and she wanted, and they created Kira Nerys, Major Kira, and gave it to Nana Visitor.
Right.
And it would have been in an alternate universe. She would have said yes. I would have liked to have seen her on that show because I like the actress.
Sure.
It would have been a different show because she has a different vibe than, Major Kira. But there was, I like this weird, this sort of eventual, tragic reconciliation. It was sort of jumping a bit to the end, but her backup security team are changelings. Surprise, surprise.
Right.
Who put a timed bomb on her shuttle. And she basically crashes it into one of the narsals of the Intrepid, who was beamed over like the majority of the crew of the Titan. And she won't use a transporter, which is interesting. So here's the question. Is the transporter a way of them infiltrating?
She mentioned that she didn't trust the transporter engineer.
Was it the engineer? Yeah. It was sort of interesting. I mean, this is me wildly speculating, which we often do.
Sure.
Watch
for the fun part comes from.
Yeah. Because Jack sees,
so what's your theory, Leo? What do you think?
That somehow I don't know, do they swap people out? Do they sort of almost like get rid of those people and like reintegrate changelings in their place?
That's an interesting theory. That's very cool.
It's possible.
Use the transporter to put people in place. That's interesting. Keith has a side question. Has that 10 forward set appeared in every episode? Because it seems like they keep looking for excuses to use that set.
It has been used a lot. It has.
Yeah.
It's a pretty elaborate set, so I'm sure they'd want to get as much use out of it as possible.
Yeah.
But
I will say this, Keith, in every instance where it's been used, I get the reason they used it. Like in that instance where she takes him in there, I don't know why Jean-Luc turned off the safety protocols. That was kind of interesting.
Well, because there was a phaser under the thing, and in case she was not who she said she was, because they had their little,
right.
Let's call it an Andorian standoff.
Yeah, exactly. But in every instance, I thought that it was apropos, and I think in this one it was just as apropos because they needed a quiet place to be able to really determine undisturbed who they really were.
Right. As she said, there are thin walls on the ship.
Yeah.
That's they are getting a lot of use. Presumably, when Picard left, the holodeck, nobody turned off the program.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's just been running. You'd be like, oh shit, I left my PS5 on.
Yeah.
So Craig Lubin says
they must have spent a lot on that 10 forward set.
A lot of neon. Yeah, that's all custom neon, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the set decorator has just gone out of their way putting.
I'm sorry, Angela. What? I didn't get all.
The set decorator has probably gone crazy with all the little Easter eggs that are all over that place.
I'm sure there's plenty we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Worf and Rafi's adventures. They're sparring, and both of them are doing some excellent stunt work. I was watching the Ready Room, and they talked about all the training they went into, and Michael Dorn's like, she's an excellent, and it was very cool to see them. Worf, yes, and I do like this new Worf. The old Worf was kind of impulsive, which was not a bad quality, but I like he's become like this warrior monk,
right?
And
I like that. I agree.
I'm waiting for the ecology of this district to realign itself.
Right. I thought that was very funny.
And and there's we've never seen a Vulcan gangster, and I was like, that is new. And I love the way he's like dropping logic in. Yeah. And he sort of his emotions break a little because he grew up on the streets. It was like he was an orphan of some kind.
Right.
And he had like his big IDIC symbol. So that actor apparently was on. There's a lot of callbacks to 12 Monkeys because they use a lot of actors from 12 Monkeys on the show because the showrunner
Terry
was
Terry
was the showrunner on 12 Monkeys. So, you bring back your friends, like
Sure.
Todd, who was
Sure.
one of the main characters on that show.
All right, slight little rabbit hole since we're talking about him. Why is there, which of course I signed, a petition going around to convince Paramount to bring him back as a showrunner on something else? Is it that there's a reset? Somebody said they wouldn't.
I don't
I think
think
they're
so,
just trying
but
to
I
get
think
another
it's just
season.
Okay.
because this is the last season of Picard, so it's not
Right.
like they're doing another one. And I think almost universally, I'm sure there are some people grousing, in corners of the internet, because there always are. But I would say that it is extremely well received by the fans,
Right. Yeah.
and by the critics, the media. This Todd has always been a working actor. He's one of these guys who's on everything.
Right. Right.
But this has really sort of pushed him more in the forefront.
Mhm.
And
But you mean Terry?
no, I'm saying Todd, as a result, like all this,
Oh, I see.
the show as a whole. But
Yeah.
I think that Terry, again, Terry's a working showrunner, writer and showrunner producer.
Right.
So he's, but this season Picard has been, like I said, with I'm sure the exception of some, trolls on the internet, universally loved.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I knew it was successful. That's why I was curious. Like, why is there this petition going around?
Well, I guess because they haven't announced another thing with him, and it's not like they're going to do another season of Picard. Although, as of last fall, when I was at New York Comic Con, I went to the Star Trek panel, and the cast of the original TNG cast there, who including Marina Sirtis, who was kind of like was extremely jet lagged. It was a bit like your drunk aunt at the holidays, sort of like very little filters, but she was very funny. And Patrick Stewart himself says, well, this is the last season of the TV show, but it doesn't mean we couldn't do a movie. Like,
Right.
I think working all together, they probably we'd like to do this again.
Well, and we were going to add a Truck Tonight news segment. I just didn't have a chance to film anything on it, but there was a rumor or an article that I read about them talking about doing a Triton series, and that Jonathan Frakes was commenting on it and saying, that they'd bring back sort of in true Next Generation form, they would bring back all of the children of the legendary characters to serve on the same ship. So I don't know.
It'll be
Interesting
it's
article.
going to be interesting to see what they do. I mean, I would love to see the Triton again, and Captain Shaw. It's interesting because he's very reluctant to go. Like, he's a very let's follow the protocol. Although but clearly you can't do that because the Starfleet is compromised. And in fact, he announced when he announced this. Hold on, let me check my notes.
Isn't the ship the Titan, not the Triton?
Titan, yes.
Titan.
Yes, that's my stupid mistake because we play Star Trek role-playing game where I command the Triton.
Oh,
nice. I do that often because
he announces emergency order.
I'm used to that name. That's the reason I do that. But yes, it is the Titan.
Emergency order 726-Alpha, which we've never heard before, but presumably that means Starfleet is compromised.
Oh, interesting.
So I would watch a Titan series. It'll be interesting to see if Shaw becomes a little bolder over the course of this back half of the season.
Right. Right.
Well, when you have the entire Starfleet chasing you,
Yeah. You can't be too.
It'll be very interesting.
Yeah. Exactly. Hey, listen, we got a thumbs up from a dear friend of ours, Jason Howard.
Oh, wow.
Gave us a thumbs up. Jason, it's nice to see you watching the show. We need to connect because I haven't talked to you in forever.
Jason's an old friend of ours who went to school with us.
Yep. And also Joe Townsend gave us a thumbs.
Oh, thank you, Joe.
Yeah, it was Joe last night.
Yeah, we haven't seen Jason in over 10 years.
Yeah.
At least in real life.
Unless it's an imposter.
Ooh.
That would be a real deep cut.
changeling Jason Howard.
If it's a changeling, Jason
No, that's his picture on Facebook.
Yes.
That's Jason Howard.
Well, unless the changeling has
Jason.
taken hacked his Facebook account.
That's true. That's true.
It's entirely possible, given the state of the universe.
Yeah, exactly.
But they had this whole.
Live long and prosper. Jason says, "Live long and prosper to you too." And I hope you're doing well.
Yes.
Sorry. So where were we before?
We were talking about Rafi and Worf, and they. It's funny because I noticed, Jason. Okay.
It's me, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what to make of that. Anyway, and it's funny because I noticed on her arm, I was like, is that a hologram emitter? As we saw in Voyager, with allowed the doctor to leave the sickbay, and walk about the ship, and even go down to planets. If I'm not mistaken,
I think so. I think he did.
And it was because of figure because Rafi's up there with a phaser rifle, but this Vulcan gangster has the jump on them because he's no dummy, and they get brought into Sneed's old lair, and they're basically. I love the way he kept using logic for like criminal enterprise, like he would justify his. They were like. Because Rafi says, "I've never thought I'd meet a Vulcan dumb enough to become a gangster." Utopia needs, without crime, there's no utopia, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Which is not much of a justification for his actions, but there you go. And they have to do a fight to the death, where everybody's wagering on them.
Oh, I love that too when she says, that old fight to the death thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rafi looks like Rafi gets Worf right in the ribs, and he's basically, sort of, you are a warrior. Today is a good day to die. Out of Klingon, and they drag the body away, and the Vulcan's like, "Well, you work for me now." She's like, "You'll never own me," and there's all these, she's being defiant, and he, is threatening her ex-husband and her son and her granddaughter. Right. And then the lights go out. You hear a lot of like blade work, and then Worf comes up, puts a knife to his neck.
Yeah.
And they were like, because the whole thing, they want to find out, how did somebody break into the Daystrom Institute, which is supposed to be extremely hard to get into. Like you need all these clearance.
Right.
It's got an AI controlling the whole thing, which also sounds like a terrible idea.
Yes, it does.
Given the history of AIs in Star Trek, and also lately the AIs that are plaguing, or depending on your point of view, that have sort of infiltrated their way into the internet. And I'm kind of like, I'm not sure AI is the way to go.
Well, now let's think about this, guys. Here's an opportunity for a little speculation. Okay. Who are the two AIs that we know of that are going to show up in this show?
Well, there are two. There's Lore
and
Moriarty.
And Moriarty. That's right.
So the question is, which one of these are they looking for?
Right. Craig Lubin says wants to know if Captain Shaw is destined to become the rebel hero captain that he despises, that he disses so much. Maybe.
Could be.
But we've talked a lot about, and we talk a lot about Shaw, especially because Terry is a dear friend of both Angela and Leo. But Angela, how are you enjoying, or
Todd?
I'm sorry. How are you feeling about the whole Rafi Worf thing? Like their
I love it. I mean, it's amazing. It's the chemistry between the two of them is out of this world.
Right.
It's funny. When you watch the Ready Room after you watch the episode, you learn more about the fight scenes. Like this was supposed to be a much longer scene, and some of the things that were included in some of the earlier fight scenes were things that they sort of improvised while they were learning to spar together, which is lovely.
Cool. That's great.
It's always cool to hear. And she was just so excited about the fact that, I've taken combat training classes as an improviser. So
Right.
it's exciting that like she's like, I got to actually do it. You know?
Yeah, she talked about like every
Right.
actor has that training. He says, I'm waiting for like get a broadsword, and then it never happens until now
Right.
for like
Right.
So she gets to do all this cool stage combat.
Well, I think it's funny because especially if you're watching the Ready Room, you see all the different original cast actors, and they all have to compliment him on what great shape he's in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because he's no spring chicken, man.
Right, I know, and I think it's fantastic because I mean they're probably all feeling their age to a certain extent, and there he is just kicking ass and doing his own stunts, you know, and
yeah, Michael Dorn has aged very well. I have to say.
He has. Yes, he has. I love the look of the character. I love the way
I do.
I reinvented him. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, I could watch a spinoff of just those two.
Yeah,
and I could watch a spinoff of just what happens with the crew of the Titan. I mean, we don't know if Shaw's even gonna survive the whole rest of the year, right?
I would be disappointed if they killed him off.
I will too.
I mean, and that's partially because he's my friend, but partially because he's become an interesting character, and I feel like there's more to explore. Given
right,
and it's funny because you look at like. Pike, they put Pike on second season of Discovery and Anson Mount, and everybody fucking lost their minds.
Right.
Because Anson Mount is super charismatic and he was great as a captain. He was like you felt like he cared about everybody. First thing he goes on the bridge, what's everybody's name? And they built that whole Enterprise bridge for the end of season 2. And it felt like that's a lot of money to spend if you're not planning on bringing it back.
Yeah.
So I think they probably had that plan in place.
Well, and Angela and I talked a little bit about that in the green room. That was, my hope is that what happened when the fans so embraced Mount for his Pike character and how he wasn't really a main character in Discovery, but that then the fans loved him, and that made them bring him back and give him his own show. And I would love to see the same thing happen for Todd.
I would too. Listen. I also more Star Trek. I'm like, I want new Star Trek every week. Because there's gonna be some gaps. I think Strange New World season 2 is probably up next, but I don't know when because
I'm hoping so.
Right.
I can't wait to dive back into that. I really can't. Hey, Keith, jumping back a tiny bit. Keith says, my money is that lore was stolen by the goo people, and they're going to recruit Moriarty to fight lore. Well, it's an interesting theory.
Interesting. I mean, there's a lot of,
although I can't figure out why the changelings would want an android. Well, yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting. It's interesting because if you recall the first appearance of Moriarty on Star Trek, it was the second season. Geordi says, I want somebody who's capable of an opponent that's capable of challenging Data.
Right.
Which is why
I think it was. I think it was actually not just challenging him, but it was somebody that he couldn't defeat.
So, he would be still ostensibly clever enough to, maybe go against lore. But the question is, we don't know like what lore's mindset is at this time. Like, he was dismantled after he sort of did this sort of Borg revolution towards the end of either the 6th or 7th season.
Right.
And he was presumably dismantled and stored at the Daystrom Institute because I guess they were like, even though he's incredibly dangerous, they were like, maybe we could still learn something.
Right. Yeah.
The way that science fiction scientists always would be like, I know this was used for evil, but hey, here's a thought. What if we use it for good? And,
maybe he's what was stolen from the Institute.
Maybe he might be, because they stole a bunch of stuff, and the portal gun and all that stuff was a distraction. So,
yeah, there has to be something in there that is bigger than the portal gun.
Yeah, this is sort of, it's the Star Trek equivalent of like the warehouse where they put, the Ark of the Covenant, at the end of Raiders.
Right.
So like whatever like weird black market exotic technology that they don't want just floating around, gets locked up at the Daystrom Institute, presumably to be maybe investigated at a later date.
Yeah, that's why Keith thinks that it's lore that was stolen.
I think that makes sense. Although again, what they're trying to do, it's unclear. I mean, here's another question: are we going to see the Jem'Hadar, which were the Dominion's foot soldiers?
Right.
Who sort of look like albino dinosaurs.
Right.
So what happened to them after the end of the Dominion War?
Right.
And
didn't the Federation end up helping them by getting them off the thing?
Yeah, they were trying. I don't think it was ever
accomplished. Okay.
Although Dr. Bashir came close in one episode. But
what? Yeah, no. Get them off the white, whatever that drug was.
It was Ketracel White.
Different.
Yeah, the thing that they were. They were able to party with them. That was for sure. But I thought that I knew Bashir was working on it. I don't know if they were.
It was one they get Bashir and O'Brien get captured, and Bashir thinks that he could find a cure, but like one guy got off it because he was deprived, and he like naturally was able to sort of throw it. But O'Brien's like, we got to get out of here. Like, and Bashir's like, no, I think I can come up with a cure, Yeah. And he's like, no, we're leaving. F these guys, there's likely to shoot us as not. So, it'll be interesting to see because they haven't made an appearance. And I would love, is there going to be a tag? I mean, it seems to be setting up for Frontier Day, which is like the entire Starfleet, in this big parade. Like, if every ship is compromised with the changelings, that's the end of the defense of the Federation.
Sure, yeah.
So the grand finale is, and everybody dies.
Right, exactly.
Blocks fall, everybody dies.
Yeah.
I hope not.
I'd be horrified.
We got tired of making Trek. We're gonna just blow everybody up at the end.
Yeah, would be a bit of a bummer, but I don't. Yeah. I think the money's not on that, but
no.
There's a lot of sort of nice, and then also, and Picard is trying to like get Jack, like maybe you consider a less, like a more respectable vocation, and he's like, boy, for a smart guy, you really don't listen.
Right.
I'm ready to go. Like once they're done with me, I'm on my merry way.
Right. And if you remember, and I'm kind of curious to hear what you guys think. So Picard then turns, goes to walk out of the room, turns back, is paused to say something, and then thinks better of it, and then walks out of the room. So what do you think he was going to say at that moment?
Maybe trying to make another pitch. Like a part of it, because he's suddenly a dad. And, I'm sure he would be sort of like trying. Picard seems like the kind of guy who would be like, have you considered Starfleet? To anybody he happens to like, he goes to a dinner party and he'd be like, talks to a young person. He's like, there's many opportunities in Starfleet, for the field you're that you're interested in. So I think he's the kind of guy who's like, he's like the vegan who's like, vegan food is actually just taste, and you're like, I've had vegan food. It does not taste anywhere near, like I remember one time, and I think vegan cakes have gotten better, but it was a friend of mine who was a vegan, and her boyfriend for her birthday got her a vegan cake, and outside it looked beautiful, but inside it was like library paste. It looked like this cake was made by aliens who had seen pictures of cake but never actually eaten one.
Yeah. That's how I feel about flavored seltzer. You buy those flavored seltzers, those full and clean flavored seltzers, and there's no sweetener in them at all. It's like aliens. That's the soda aliens would make if they'd never tasted soda, because it has a flavor, but none of the natural sweetness of whatever that flavor is.
No, it's like a hint. It's like having a twist of something in it.
Yeah, I don't.
But I also, it is interesting to see. I think that Jack and Picard are sort of, if not, they're sort of getting closer, but
Yeah.
it's sort of baby steps. Like he no longer seems contemptuous of him.
Right. Right.
And so it'll be.
No, and I think what's happening here is now Jack is getting very wrapped up in these visions he keeps having. So he's not as focused on whether I should make friends with old dad or not. He's more obsessed with that, rightly so, because it's disturbing.
Well, in that scene where he goes all Jason Bourne on those 4 changelings, he's looking down the corridor and like all the vines or veins or whatever the hell they are, going down the hallway. There's a red door at the end, and it looks like a wooden door. And I was getting a very sort of Stranger Things vibe in that moment.
Yeah, you're right. Like the what is it? I forget what it's called.
The Upside Down.
The Upside Down. That's right. Yeah. The Upside Down. There you go. Thank you.
It's also very 12 Monkeys.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? See, I didn't watch. I so hated the ending of the movie 12 Monkeys. I never watched the show because I loved the movie 12 Monkeys, and I'm watching it. I'm thinking this might be the perfect science fiction film for me. And then I got to the end where it all turns out to be bullshit, and the woman's on the airplane, and I got so mad that that I never went back to that at all. So I never saw it.
You should revisit because it's 2 completely different animals.
Oh, I know it is.
I know. It's one of these shows I feel like I need to go back and watch.
Right.
Because I lost track of it when it first came on.
Right.
And it's funny, I went to see the original movie at the Ziegfeld for New Yorkers, which was one of the until it closed. 8 years ago? I don't know.
Was it like a dance hall now or something, or an event?
It's an event space.
A space, yeah.
But
did we see a Star Wars movie there together?
We did. We did on the night before they closed. You and me and Ben Savenga and a few other people. I was like, Ziegfeld is closing. The Force Awakens was playing there, and I'm like, let's go and see that. It's a good film. It's a big film to see in a big, But I went to see 12 Monkeys at the Ziegfeld with Ben Savenga and a couple of other. Our friend Mike Bensabanga, who's a very talented playwright and director, and he hated that movie. He hated it so much, but I don't think for the same reasons you do. I think he hated it top to bottom.
Right. Right.
And I've only seen it the one time, so my memory of it is a little fuzzy.
I just remember my wife at the time, Carol, and I sat watching it, and we were loving it, just thinking it's amazing. This is a great movie. And then we got to the last 5 minutes, and I couldn't. It's been so blocked out of my brain that I couldn't even really articulate why I hated the ending so much, because I'd have to go back and look at it. And then I might change my mind. Who knows?
But let's recommend the 12 Monkeys TV show.
There you go. That's fine.
On Sci-Fi.
That's fine.
Yeah, Terry will not disappoint you.
Yeah. Rabbit hole time. Okay. Yes. So Craig is speculating, is Jack actually a changeling?
That is a good question.
No.
I don't think so either, Angela. I'm with you on that, but it did cross my mind.
There's something
I think we're supposed to have it cross our mind. But I don't think he is.
Yeah.
I don't think he is exactly, because I think that it would have, like, his mom's a dog. You got to figure that she's giving him, regular like scans, taking out her fiber,
although she did have to dig really deep in order to find, any hint that that LaForge was a changeling. So,
right, but he's also been having these nightmares since he was a kid.
Yeah,
that's true. You're right. Because changeling in European folklore are fairies or elves substituted by them surreptitiously for a human infant. Yeah, I get what you're saying there, Craig. Okay, so he's saying that if you're looking at it from the standpoint of what in our folklore culture would be a changeling, that maybe he was substituted near
could
birth.
Be. I mean, that's an interesting question. I don't know, but everybody wants this guy, and still unclear as to why.
See, I think there's something far more important about his ability.
I want it to be some sort of like Borg thing that has
Me
just
too.
been like skipped a generation or whatever, and
Yes.
Well, I mean,
it's
you got to figure there's still like maybe like a little residual Borg in Picard,
right.
and he's his dad. So,
Right.
oh yeah, there's no generation to skip, huh?
and we also
Yeah. Right.
we also hear a woman's voice in his vision saying, "Find me."
Yeah. Except you know what? Put on your closed captioning. That whole thing got ruined. Closed captioning says Beverly every time you hear that voice.
It sounds,
It
I
sounds
thought
like
it sounded
her.
like Beverly.
Yeah. Well, closed captioning tells you it's Beverly. Now, unless they're effing with you, I don't know. But
It sounded like her. Like
yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, here's the question: can we trust Beverly? That's another thing. Maybe
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's telling us everything, right?
yeah.
She got us on the wave for the contraction timing, and
Right.
she knows that the blood test doesn't work, and the organs look good until you cut into them, and then it's like,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Now,
She's-
Keith
solid.
comments, if Jack is part Borg, why would the changelings care?
I don't know. There's a lot of
Stay
I mean,
tuned
we're just
and we'll find out.
I'm trying to think because, I don't think the Borg never encountered the changelings and tried to assimilate them.
no.
So,
I mean, could they even assimilate a changeling?
yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is we don't know enough about changelings to understand anything about them, right? I mean, they're
Exactly.
so
Right.
foreign.
Exactly, and that's why Keith says he just feels like he needs one more puzzle piece to get the picture. Yeah, we are close,
We're close.
but we need something more. Yeah, to really be able to come up with theories, which is a hallmark of the show, and I think it's fantastic. Everything that has happened so far for me has been an interesting surprise or a moment or something. There's been very little that, except for the fact that Jack was Picard's son.
Yeah.
And you called out that it was Worf, that Worf was her handler.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
That was pretty amazing.
Yeah. But other than those two things, there have been a lot of great surprises that make you go, "Oh yeah, that's cool." So hats off to the writers on that. Let's see. Yeah, the Worf thing was that was great because what was the line that he said that made us go there, Leo? It was
You're a warrior.
You're a
warrior. That's right. Yeah, exactly. I will say that in the time that I watched the episode with my wife and Worf says it is a good day to die, my wife went, "Oh." Yeah, it's almost like, yeah, well, that is his catchphrase,
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's no. Well, it is his cat. Listen, if he didn't say, it would be weird.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
It is much like in the second season. Picard never used the word charade. Like, what is this charade?
Charade, yes.
Which is one of his favorite words. When dealing with Q, that never came. Like, that felt like a real missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, you like people like groaning, but you want to hear it. Like, you don't want him to not say it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Keith's in on the Borg thing.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
Well, and I say this because I watched the Ready Room, and because they showed a clip from next week.
Well, there you go. So you're ahead of me on that. I didn't see that yet.
And can I spoil it for you?
For it.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So, because it's out there, Rafi and Worf are with everybody on the Titan.
Okay.
And they're talking about breaking in to the Daystrom Institute to find out what was taken. And and Picard has a good use of the word burgled, as Riker points out. So I'm glad they're bringing we don't have to wait for them to find their way. Now, talking a little bit about going back to Ro Laren after her untimely passing, she'd given Picard her Bajoran earring, which was a big source of Riker was like so funny because Riker was such a hard ass when she first appeared. She's wearing a Bajoran earring. He's like, that's not against regulation. And I'm like, Worf wears a fucking sash. Like,
Right.
are you going to tell me that her earring is somehow like disruptive to duty on the ship? That just felt like him being a hard ass.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Right. Right.
So she gives it to Picard, and he's like, I don't even know. Like he's still struggling with the loss of her because he finally understands. Because she's like, you don't understand that I did what I thought was the right thing. I stood up against tyranny.
Right.
I stood for the right thing, but you couldn't see that. It was all about duty and honor.
Right.
Well,
what does she say? She says something about having unwavering loyalty is not honorable.
Yeah,
which I thought was a cool one.
Yeah, they're
blind loyalty. That's
blind loyalty. Yeah, is not honor. And so he's puzzling over this, and Riker immediately says, "Oh, this is what
puzzler was sore."
Yes, and it's all her files.
Yeah,
but I'm like, how did Riker? I mean, listen, obviously they want to spend a lot of time faffing about, trying to figure out what this is, but it did feel like Riker was like, "Oh, it's old school spycraft." I'm like, since when do you know about old school spycraft, Riker?
No, well, I don't know. I thought it was cool. That didn't.
It was cool, but it just felt very cool. Like if if they just had if somebody noticed something, it just felt like it was like he just did it like he knew what it was, and.
That is true. Well, it's a little bit like Captain Kirk realizing they're in a mirror universe. I mean, he did all get to that very quickly, but maybe he just extrapolated that from the idea that she wasn't wearing it. Which
I guess. I mean,
it wasn't something that she wasn't really a piece of jewelry, and she gave it to him for a reason.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it is.
I mean, it's a minor quibble.
Yeah.
It doesn't ruin the fact that
I actually liked the moment, so I don't know.
No, I did too, and and that's when Worf, called it. He was like, "Admiral, Captain,
yeah.
Where's command? Where's Rolaren?" And they're both like, oof.
Yeah.
Now,
what is this photograph that I stumbled across when I was looking for pictures of Rolaren, which I just had up there for a second ago?
Yeah.
What is this picture that I stumbled across with Ro and Picard like kissing like they're making out? Did somebody fake that?
Maybe.
Because I don't remember.
Riker? Did you see Riker?
No, Picard.
I don't remember her ever kissing
Picard. And Rolaren in the picture.
There was an episode where everybody lost their memory with these aliens. They brainwashed the Enterprise because they wanted them to destroy their enemies.
Right.
They weren't as advanced with the spaceships, but they could do a thing where they could screw with your mind.
Yeah.
And they had this extra commander mix something or other. And they couldn't remember who they were. And Riker and Ro kind of like, "Oh, I think we have kind of a connection." And they she's like, "I think I spent a lot of time in your quarters." They're kind of like,
I just know there's this picture. All of a sudden, the two of them are like, going at it hot and heavy, and I'm like, I don't remember that.
No, I don't remember that. Oh, that seems like a deep fake.
Yeah,
some fanfic.
Yeah. Anywho, hey guys, we are, believe it or not, at 53 minutes after the hour, almost 54. Are there any last minute, and I'm going to throw this to Angela, any last things that stuck out to you that you really think need to be pointed out?
I love how Shaw was very hesitant to skedaddle at the end.
Yeah,
right.
He calls for security against Picard.
Right.
But when it's obvious that all right, most of his crew has been transported over to the other ship, and they're clearly getting ready to fire on you.
Right.
This is a coming to Jesus moment. You gotta pick your sides.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this journey that they're about to embark on.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun chase.
Oh yeah.
And I'm glad that it's not going to be in a stupid nebula.
Yeah,
Yeah, the nebula.
I was glad they got out of the nebula. I really was glad they got out of the nebula. Yeah.
It served its purpose.
Yes.
I think if they had one more episode in the nebula, I wouldn't be quite as charmed by the whole thing as I am. But yeah,
I think we had just the perfect amount of nebula.
just enough nebula. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like hot sauce. You don't want a lot. You want a little bit. You're like, oh, what's that?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Like nobody wants to eat a bowl of nebula.
Oh my gosh, I feel like Craig Lubin. I keep fiddling with this Hot Wheels car on my desk because I'm using it like a fidget spinner, and I just broke the wheel off.
Oh, yeah. Craig, our good friend Craig, who's a fan of the show and has been on the show, would always, whenever he'd come over to somebody's house, he would just pick up stuff and start like fiddling with it.
We called him the fiddler, like the Riddler, but the fiddler. Yeah.
So
I got the wheel back on. All right.
Oh, good.
Oh my. Any rate, Keith says he cannot wait for next week.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna throw this one up because this is a little longer.
Thank you so much for letting me jump on screen with you guys. This is
Hey,
thank
thank
you
you so
doing
much
it.
for being here, Angela. It was wonderful to have you on the show. I really enjoyed it. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry, Keith. You gotta wait. Craig says the fiddler strikes.
Yes.
He does. Yeah. Oh yeah, Keith says, thank goodness he wouldn't have been able to sleep tonight if I hadn't gotten that wheel back on. Yeah, that's very true. Thank you, Keith. And I was going to say that he was saying this is a great episode, better than the previous. Loved Star Trek as Shaw. Loved Rora Laren's appearance. Loved Worf and Raffi. I'm enjoying the puzzle of Jack. So
Yeah, I think they're doing a good job of building this episode by episode. Like they reveal enough that you don't feel like you're spinning your wheels,
right.
Which is the problem with a mystery. Like, and this is like a show like Lost, which I watched, very, religiously.
Oh yeah.
And the end was the end.
Yeah. Right.
But the problem is and I don't mind if not every mystery is revealed. Like, what was the deal with that statue with 3 toes instead of like? There's a lot of weird stuff that never got explained.
Yeah.
What?
I watched Lost to the extent that I wanted it to be a video game that I could play, sort of a la Myst, because it was that fascinating to me, and I wanted to explore the island more, and I wanted to know more about the backstory and everything else. And then it kind of went. But the thing about this, you're right, Leo. The thing about this, for me, is they're clearly have the story well thought out.
Yeah.
Unlike last season, where I think they had a bunch of ideas and they didn't really fully know what to do with them, and it sort of went in a few sloppy directions, and then they wrapped it all up at the end. This one, I think they learned their lesson, and I think it's well crafted.
Interestingly enough, they shot those two up, season 2 and season 3 back to back.
I know they did. Yeah.
But this is a different. They have a different showrunner this season.
Yeah.
So I think that that has made all the difference.
Yeah. Angela, for you, what's the best part? Acting, performance, or writing?
Well, I'm incredibly biased.
I know you are. That's why I asked you the question.
I can't give you an unbiased answer to that. My love and devotion to Star Trek
I know
supersedes all. So
I know. Yeah,
he just happens to be fucking amazing.
That is great. Okay. Yeah.
I would say it's a combination. They've got excellent actors,
right,
to give you everything. Like they're squeezing all the juice out of the rag that is that script. Like they're like, so it's a combination. Like you have excellent actors who are really bringing everything to life, but they're also, the expression like if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. You have to start with a good script,
right?
And I think they've done that.
Right.
And the fact that they reveal a little bit every week, it's not just like it doesn't become like a thing at the last episode where they have to like wrap everything up and tie everything together, which has happened in other shows.
Yes.
season 2.
Game of Thrones.
But I think they did. They're doing an excellent job.
Yeah,
And I'm enjoying watching the band get back together. I'm enjoying all the new characters.
Me too.
I like Jack. I like the fact that Jack is not like, hey, maybe Starfleet's for me. He's like, nope.
Yeah.
Right. Like sawed off. Not for me.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And I love Sydney LaForge.
Yep.
And of course Captain Shaw.
I'd like to get to know that bald Vulcan a little bit better.
Yeah, there's that Bulba. She's a quarter Deltan, apparently.
I know she is a quarter Deltan. Yeah. See, when the first pan around the bridge, I saw her, didn't notice the ears, and thought, "Oh, they brought a Deltan back."
Yeah,
bald, I guess. But Keith says the writing has been spot on, and Stashwick has been amazing. And and I agree with both those things. And I've got to say, the more I learn about the man, there's a lot of actors and performers that I love, and would I want to sit down and have a drink with them at a party? Sure, but I really want to know him.
Yeah, he is very much one of us. He's a huge
exactly.
nerd.
I just feel like I would have a lot of fun getting to know him. But at any
Well,
rate,
he's going to be at GaryCon next weekend if you want to see him.
Where is GaryCon?
I think it's in Indiana.
It's in Wisconsin.
Gary, Indiana, Gary.
That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it would be apropos, but it's because of Gary Gygax. I don't know if it's done at his home or nearby, but it's like a lot of old school, like real old school D&D games.
Gotcha.
I've never had the opportunity to go.
Right.
Right. But I'm not.
Todd has
sadly,
a D&D themed tiki cocktail book.
Yes.
So he's going to be pushing that hard this next weekend.
There
are many layers to the onion that is Todd Stashwick.
Yes. I believe there are. That's what I am coming to learn. All right, guys. Angela, again, thank you so much. I'm glad to actually meet you, quote unquote, this way. It's been really a lot of fun to have you on the show. Thank you for doing it.
Yes, thank you.
And anytime you want to come on the show, just let us know, because I would love to have you. I love your perspective on things and your sense of humor, which is important to me.
Dirty.
Jason Howard, a last comment here. So happy for Todd. Great to seeing you guys live and off camera. Mr. Lubin, got to go where nobody's gone before. My daughter needs me. Cheers to all my friends. Okay. Yes. Very good. Very good. Good night, Jason. All right. Jason. I am going to wait, I just want to double check this. Oh, okay. Now Craig gave us a thumbs up too, which he always does at the end of the show, which is very nice.
Thank you, Craig.
I'm going to roll us out of here. Guys, have a wonderful week.
You too.
We will be back Wednesday at 8 p.m. for our next installment on Mandalorian. And then, of course, the next installment the following night, Thursday. Same bat channel, same bat time for Picard episode 6. So until then, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Have a wonderful week, and we will see you again very soon. Kitty cat.